See, that's how you get the fans hype. Sit on the couch, have a few drinks, a few sodas. Promise him that I wouldn't be too biased. Best idea for anybody listening to this: pick everything that I'm picking against. Welcome back to Tyler's Tailgate Talk. Another great intro made by Max there. I'm Tyler, and this week I will not be joined by Max. He's on vacation, so I'm all by myself this week. But I just wanted to get started with some headlines in the college football world because we've got a crazy week this week in the college football games. Let's just get right into it. Last week we had a crazy week. NC State knocked off Clemson, potentially ending the Clemson dynasty. Clemson lost in week 1 to Georgia, and the NC State loss really just knocks them out of the playoffs for this year. It's been really rare. I don't think it's even happened where we've seen a 2-loss team make the college football playoff. So Clemson pretty much out of it with the NC State loss. NC State wins that game 27-21. That was a crazy game. Another game that was crazy from last week, Oklahoma and West Virginia faced off. One of my tailgate locks of the week, actually, where I had the over hitting at, I think it was around 50.5 or something. And Oklahoma just squeaked by with a win there against the Mountaineers of West Virginia, 16-13. So close game for Oklahoma against an unranked West Virginia team. Kind of concerning there. We're not really sure what Oklahoma is. Spencer Rattler's been pretty meh these past few weeks, so we're still looking for him to really get into the Spencer Rattler that we all expected to see last year and this year. Arkansas has been huge against these Texas teams. They knocked off Texas 2 weeks ago. This week they knock off Texas A&M 20-10. That bumps them up into the top 10 in the AP poll for the first time in God knows how long. This week they're playing Georgia, so that'll be a very interesting game to watch. College game day game of the week. So that's a game that could go either way. Georgia's a really, really, really good team. JT Daniels is something special. That offense is still something that we're yet to see click. They did blow out Vanderbilt, but it is Vanderbilt. So Arkansas, definitely a big game this week. And if they win this game, they're a top 4 team easily. So it's going to be a big game for the Razorbacks. Some headlines that we saw this week: the NCAA announced that BYU and Notre Dame will actually be playing in 2022 at Allegiant Stadium as part of the Shamrock Series, Notre Dame Shamrock Series. So playing at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Kind of funny that the two most religious schools in the country going out to play in Vegas for an exhibition game, or for a neutral site game. Sorry, regular season game, neutral site. But that'll be interesting to see how Allegiant Stadium can hold up BYU Notre Dame fans for sure. We've got a great slate of games this week. We've got Notre Dame and Cincinnati playing. Pretty much the winner of that game has a very easy schedule after this week. So the winner of that game potentially could make the playoff, puts themselves in a very good position to do so. Alabama and Ole Miss pretty much playing for the Heisman between Bryce Young and Matt Corral. So we got a big week this week. A lot of teams are going to be able to prove themselves. A lot of teams might get upset. It's going to be a good week. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, because this week the NCAA actually broke the record for the most top 25 losses in the first 4 weeks of the schedule, which got me thinking, like, this has been a crazy week, the crazy year in college football. these teams left and right are just getting knocked off. The top 5 teams aren't always like playing top 5 football. We saw Oklahoma struggle. We saw Clemson struggle when they were in the top 5. Um, Oregon struggled at times. Penn State struggled at times. They barely squeaked past an Auburn team that's not very good. So we've seen a lot of parity in college football this year. And one of the reasons that I think it might be is I think COVID's definitely to blame here. One thing that the NCAA implemented when COVID hit was the fact that everybody who was on a roster during the pandemic got an extra year of eligibility. Now, yes, a lot of guys chose to go to the NFL, but not everyone gets to go to the NFL. A lot of those guys have chosen to stay another year in college. So what you're having now is you're having small schools that don't have great recruiting classes. And I'll use NC State as an example. You have small school like NC State that doesn't have a great recruiting class. And you have basically super seniors on the team who are 23 years old, playing with 4 years of experience with the guys they're playing with. This has kind of become an example of what college kids playing against grown men looks like. I mean, this NC State team is pretty experienced on the defensive side, and they've had years of experience together. So it's the team like that that's playing with a bunch of 23-year-old guys going up against Clemson, who they recruit well. A lot of their seniors ended up going to the NFL, so they're not really stacked with super seniors. So you get kind of a NC State that's 23 years old, playing with a lot of experience, going up against a Clemson team that is a lot of underclassmen, freshmen, sophomore players who are just like new recruits and new starters on the team. So that's kind of an interesting thing that we've seen in college football this year. One thing of why we're getting a lot of teams in the top 25 that we don't normally see, like the Arkansas, the NC States, teams like that. And one of the reasons why we're seeing so many of these stacked powerhouses just fall, like the Clemson's not doing good. Oklahoma's struggling. I mean, it's crazy to think that this might be a season where we might see 3 teams in the college football playoff that we haven't seen before, ever in the playoff, which is going to be crazy. Now, I'm leaving Alabama out of the equation here just because of how dominant they've been in the first 4 weeks of the season. I mean, they beat up on everybody they've played except for Florida, where they only squeaked by with a win, but still that's a great win for a Florida team against a Florida team that's really good. Now they'll have their skills tested this week against Ole Miss, but I think Alabama is one of those teams that's the exception to the rule where, they've got a lot of guys going. They've had a lot of guys go to the NFL, but at the same time, the recruits that are coming in and the new starters that are playing have gotten so many reps and so much experience. Because last year they were blowing teams out and playing all of their backups the entire second half. So they've got a lot of experience there. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how much parity the league will have, or the college football landscape will have throughout the rest of the season. And hey, I wouldn't be surprised if we got 3 new college football playoff teams, and I think that'd be great for the sport. Anyway, let's get into tailgate locks for this week, because we've got some locks that I'm really confident on, some that I would stay away from. I'll start off with Michigan and Wisconsin. Michigan ranked 14th in the country coming up, playing against Wisconsin. Now, interesting thing about this is Michigan's ranked 14, Wisconsin's unranked, but Wisconsin is actually the favorite in this game. favored by 1.5. Michigan's been playing really well. I think at some point this year, I think they're going to hit their line, and I think they're just going to spiral out of control. I don't think that's this week. I think they're going to prove that they are a good team for now against Wisconsin this week. I'm going to take Michigan plus 1.5 points against the Badgers. Again, I really like Michigan so far this year. They've been playing really well. The run game's working. I like Michigan in this game, plus 1.5. All right, number 3, Oregon is taking on Stanford. Now, Oregon, one of the best teams in the country, obviously ranked in the top 3. They have to be. Kayvon Thibodeau, probably the best player in the country all around. He's insane. Stanford's kind of struggled the past few weeks. Struggled in a game against Colorado. Oregon's favored by 8 points here. I think they hammer that. I think they'll win by a lot more than 8. Probably maybe not a blowout, but it'll definitely be more than a 1-possession game. So I'm going to take Oregon, hammer Oregon -8. Next on the list, number 6, Oklahoma, taking on Kansas State. Now, Oklahoma is a team that has struggled mightily this year. They are winning games, but they're struggling. And Kansas State, the past 2 times that these teams have met, Kansas State's beat them. Oklahoma's been ranked in the top 10 both times. Kansas State unranked both times, and both times Kansas State came out with an upset loss. Now, I'm not saying take Kansas State in this game. No, I'm going to stay away from the spread here. Instead, we're going to go with the over-under. I'm going to take the under of 52.5. Oklahoma's struggling offensively. They haven't been putting up a lot of points lately. Kansas State's got a good defense, and they've got Oklahoma's number. So I don't think Kansas State's going to be putting up a lot of points. If Kansas State stays in this game, I think your total points scored might be around 40-ish, 45, but I don't think it gets much higher than that. I would be very surprised with an Oklahoma blowout here. So I'm going to take the under of 52.5. Now, the last lock of the week, and this might be the one that I'm least confident in, but we got to do it just to do it. Number 1, Alabama taking on number 12, Ole Miss. I'm going to stay away from the spread here just because of how close Alabama played Florida. Ole Miss had Alabama's number last year. Alabama just squeaked away with a win last year. So this is going to be a great game spread-wise. Going to be a very interesting game in that way. But I'm going to take total points over 79.5. The over-under 79.5. Let's take the over. Last year, I believe they scored 111 points. And this year with Bryce Young, Matt Corral, both offenses just clicking. Bryce Young has found Jamison Williams, the wide receiver for Alabama, to be might be his favorite new target. Matt Corral is just playing Heisman level football at the moment. So over 79.5, I think they both definitely get over the 40 mark easily. Let's go to upset watch for this week. A lot of games that could go either way, where I wouldn't really be surprised with an upset, but at the same time, like kind of like an Arkansas and Georgia. And I'm not going to be surprised if Arkansas pulls it off, but at the same time, you're expecting Georgia to pull it off. You got Maryland and Iowa. Maryland taking on number 5 Iowa, Talia Tagovailoa, to his brother. Taking on number 5 Iowa. Iowa only favored by 3 points. Maryland's a great football team. They should definitely be ranked in the top 25, in my opinion. They're not, probably just outside 26, 27 range. Iowa's a really good football team, but I think they get their skills tested this week against the Terps. So I think Tully is going to have the game of his career this week. I think Maryland pulls off the upset. I wouldn't be surprised. Arkansas and Georgia, like I said, it's going to be a great game. I'm not going to be too surprised either way with how that game comes out. I would love to see an Arkansas win just because of how great that would be for the college football world. I mean, if Arkansas goes, they take down Texas, they take down Texas A&M, they take down Georgia, I believe they have Ole Miss coming up after this. So if they're going into Ole Miss ranked top 5, maybe top 4, and they somehow beat Ole Miss, I mean, the the opportunities that Arkansas would have might even lock themselves into the playoffs with those kind of wins. Again, they do have Alabama down in November, but again, if you're undefeated going into Tuscaloosa playing Alabama and you lose, I don't think the College Football Playoff Committee is really going to count that against you. You might drop a spot or two, but if you have the resume that Arkansas might have, if they actually pull this off over the stretch of games, you might drop from 2 to 4 at most. So a big game for Arkansas here, playing for their season really. So it should be a great game. I mentioned it before, and this is probably going to be one of the games that a lot of people are sleeping on this week. Notre Dame and Cincinnati. Now, these teams don't have the greatest of schedules. Cincinnati coming in ranked number 7, and Notre Dame coming in ranked number 9. Now, this is where the College Football Playoff Committee is really going to have to look at and examine these schedules, because you have Notre Dame, who is an independent team, unconferenced. You have Cincinnati, who is in a group of 5. They're not Power 5, and we've never seen a group of 5 school make the playoff. So if Cincinnati wants to make the playoff, they had the ranking to start the year right where they needed it. I believe they started 8th, right where they wanted. So if they win this game against Notre Dame, that'll bump them up even more, potentially top 5, depending on how the top 5 go. Again, you would definitely need some losses in there, but both of these teams' schedules are basically a walk in the park after this game. I mean, I would be very surprised if both of these teams didn't go undefeated the rest of the year. It's that easy. I mean, Cincinnati's hardest game might be SMU, who's currently unranked, so not much competition there. Notre Dame's got Tulane, maybe. It might be a tough game. I don't know. Tulane's not great. So whoever wins this game pretty much has an easy schedule the rest of the year, walk in the park. I would say winner of this game makes the playoffs, basically. You can probably pen that in. Another game we got this week, Kansas State and Oklahoma. I talked about. Don't be surprised if Kansas State makes this a game. It's going to be a low-scoring game. So Rutgers and number 11 Ohio State. Now, Rutgers got their asses beat last week against Michigan. Ohio State beat up on Akron last week. Don't be surprised if Rutgers pulls out of this game with a win. Ohio State's definitely struggled this year, coming out number 11 in the country. Again, already with 1 loss. So Rutgers definitely with an opportunity here to show the college football world who they are. This is a team, if I'm Greg Schiano, one thing I really want to do is come out of this year with a great win. He's trying to build this program, and he wants to come out with a great win to go show recruits, hey, listen, you come here, we can compete with Ohio State, we can compete with Michigan, we can compete with these teams in the Big Ten that we haven't been able to compete with for the past 10 plus years. So I would say this is a big game for Rutgers. Again, they're not playing for much this year. The Big Ten championship is pretty much out of reach now. I mean, they might get a bowl game. They might get a good bowl game, but again, when you're a group of when you're a Power 5 school, you kind of want more than that. Rutgers is definitely building their program, and what they get out of this game, it's going to be up to them. If they pull out with a win, a very convincing win, that's going to be huge. It'll look great for recruits. People will want to come to Rutgers. They'll want to visit. those who are visiting the school at this time are going to see, wow, this school can compete with Ohio State. I want to go here. I want to further my education here. So big game for Rutgers this week against number 11 Ohio State. And finally, my game of the week. Now, Arkansas and Georgia is going to be a great game. A lot riding on that game. Notre Dame and Cincinnati is also a great game with a lot riding on it, and especially with a playoff spot on the line. But number 1, Alabama, and number 12, Ole Miss, is my game of the week. Just because of the magnitude of this game, what we saw last year with Ole Miss actually putting up a fight as an unranked team up against Alabama, who would go on to win the national championship. People forget that, yeah, Alabama may have blown out teams in the college football playoffs. In the national championship, they blew out. It wasn't even close against Ohio State. The semifinal wasn't close. All the games leading up to that weren't really close. Auburn was meh, but still took care of business easily in the Iron Bowl. People forget that Ole Miss gave Alabama the most competition out of anybody last year. I'm not really sure people remember that. So when talking about this game, you have Matt Corral, quarterback for Ole Miss, who's gotten better from last year. He's tied for the Heisman favorite this year with Bryce Young. So there's a lot riding on this game for Ole Miss. They win this game, sky's the limit for them. I mean, you just knocked off defending champions and the number 1 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. So something that Lane Kiffin definitely wants to do. And also, Nick Saban's 23-0 as a head coach when playing his assistant coaches. Lane Kiffin used to be an assistant coach under Nick Saban out of Alabama way back in the day. And Nick Saban's 23-0 playing against his assistants when they would become a head coach. So could Lane Kiffin make that 23-1? Could Nick Saban increase that to 24-0? We'll see on Saturday. But this is going to be a great game. Heisman Trophy winner, probably going to be the winning quarterback of this game. I would be surprised if it wasn't. I'm not buying anything crazy happening. So this is going to be a great game to watch. I know my game of the weeks have always been something good, have always been great games to watch. This one is not going to disappoint. There's no way this game can disappoint, really. I mean, you see Alabama blow Ole Miss out. Can't be disappointed with that. Yeah, I mean, I can't, obviously. But you can't really be disappointed with that because you then know what Alabama is. You kind of take a step back and say, oh, okay, let's hold the horses here on Ole Miss. Maybe they need to get another convincing win, maybe a blowout win or something over a good team to really improve their stock. And obviously, we'll be treated with a close game. Fans everywhere, except for me, will be treated with an Ole Miss win with Alabama losing. There's really no bad way this game can go. So for that reason, Alabama, Ole Miss, my game of the week. Lock it in. Go check out, down in the description below is my shop. Go shop. We got some cool t-shirts. New Alabama t-shirt this week, new Oregon t-shirt this week. I believe a new Virginia Tech t-shirt this week. So go check it out. Put a lot of work into it. And they're only $20. Like, the cheap as hell. Go buy one. And if we don't have a design with the college team that you want, just send me a DM on Instagram. Hey, let's see this team. Let's see UMass. Let's see Rutgers on there. Rutgers design on there. Sure, I'll get it done for you, and I'll put it up there. $20, only $20, cheap as hell. We want these at an affordable price for you. So go check that out. Go shop. go get something. Go rep the pod. You can check out the Washed Up Sports podcast every Thursday. I want to say, probably going to get that wrong. Every Thursday at noon, you can catch Evan and Max. But that'll do it for this week. Carrying the load this week. I want to thank Max again for putting this together after hours, especially on vacation. So, Max, cheers to you. And all of you watching at home, adios.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel and subscribe. Make sure to follow our Instagram and maybe consider subscribing on Patreon for our bonus content. You can only find it there. I promise it will be well worth it. Thanks.